In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the heating elements in your water heater and adjust the temperature setting in the next 5 minutes. Following that, I will talk about some of the things that could go wrong in the process of draining the heater and changing the elements. And after that, there will be some more tips for success as well as some information about changing the anode rods. But first, a quick rundown of how to drain your water heater so that you don't have water gushing out when you pull out the heating elements. First, you need to shut off your water heater power breaker. Then turn off your cold water supply to the water heater. Then you need to open a sink somewhere on hot and leave it running for the air to be able to escape from the line. Then connect a garden hose to the drain at the bottom of your water heater and open the valve to drain. Give it some time to flush out. Now we can begin to replace the heating elements, starting with the top one in case the water is still draining. Remove the cover with a screwdriver or a drill. Pull back the insulation and even tape it up to get it out of the way. At this point, you can use an electrical tool to make sure the wires are not hot. More about this tool at the end of the video. And as you can see, there's a little thermometer where you can adjust the temperature if you wish. You will need a tiny flathead screwdriver, as a regular sized one will not fit. These thermometers are found near both of the heating elements. Next, take a good look at the slot where the wires are inserted on the heating element. Take a Phillips screwdriver and loosen the 2 screws counterclockwise, just enough to be able to pull out the 2 wires away from the screws. This step is pretty easy and I'm doing it with one hand while I hold the camera in the other. Then tighten the screws back so they don't fall out. Then grab your 1.5 inch socket wrench and place it over top of the heating element. Put a screwdriver through the hole to be able to twist the element out counterclockwise. Remove the element and make sure to get the gasket out too. Just look at that thing. It's amazing that it's only about 4 years old and it still works pretty decently even though it looks like this, although it was starting to lose a little bit of efficiency, hence the maintenance. I would recommend cleaning that hole a little bit with a Clorox wipe and or pipe cleaner. Now get your new heating element and make sure the gasket is in place. Twist it into place by hand and then using the tool again. Then loosen the 2 screws on the heating element and insert the wires. Make sure you insert them into the metal slot, not the plastic one, and just push the wires in until they won't go anymore. You may need to bend the wires a little bit so that they are in place to go in at a different angle if the heating element ends up at a different angle. A wire cutter or some pliers may be helpful to bend those wires into place if you have small, delicate hands like mine. LOL. Now you're done and ready to replace the insulation and cover and move on to the bottom element and just repeat those same steps. You may need to grab some knee pads or a pillow for the bottom element. And then you are ready to refill your water heater with water and turn it back on. Close the bottom drain and remove the hose. Make sure you still have the sink open before you turn on the cold water inlet, as you will need for the air to escape from the water heater as it fills back up. If you don't do this, it will start making some scary sounds. Wait till the water heater is completely full before turning the power back on so that you don't burn out the heating elements. Now the rate that it fills up should be faster than your sink flowing out, but you can tell when it's full by pulling up on the pressure release valve a little bit, and a little bit of water will come out when the water heater is completely full to the top. Now you can turn the power back on and stare at it for about an hour while you drink some coffee and make sure that there's no leaks anywhere, including the bottom drain. Tips for success. This video is for Bradford White water heaters, so make sure to check the instructions specific to your brand. Number 2, when you go to buy the heating elements, they are sold based on voltage. The label on the front of my water heater says 3500/4500. These can be purchased at Home Depot, a generic brand, or the Bradford White brand online. Number 3, if you are not sure whether or not you turned off the correct breaker for your water heater, you could just turn off the main power to your house. Or you can use this electric wire tester device on the wires. Simply turn it on and touch it against the wires. If it turns red and beeps, that means the wires are alive. Unfortunately, this does not work on the conduits of the water heater power, so you do have to touch the wires themselves after you remove the cover and pull away the insulation, so be careful. Now I'm going to tell you about all the problems that I had when attempting to drain and replace the heating elements in my other water heater, as I have 2 in this duplex. It started off badly right away. I could not reach the water shutoff valve behind this heater, and the amount that I could reach, it would only turn about 45 degrees. So I gave up and just decided to shut off the main water to the whole duplex. I then connected the garden hose and opened the valve. I had previously removed the kitchen and bathroom sinks due to remodeling, so I had the only option of turning on the shower for airflow, but turns out this is not sufficient airflow to drain a water heater. Apparently sinks are a better option, but I didn't know this at the time, so I attempted to clean out the debris at the bottom of the water heater with a pipe cleaner, which is something that I did on the other water heater because it was a little bit clogged at the bottom, which did the trick for the other water heater. But this one did not have any clogs at the bottom, didn't really have any sediment at all. And as you can see, the purpose of flushing out the water heater every year is to get rid of all that sediment, but this one had none, whereas the other one had a lot. Not sure if that's good or bad. I had to use the pressure relief valve to kickstart the draining process since it would not drain. I didn't realize it wasn't really draining anyway. I got impatient and moved on to removing the heating element, but I could not get it to budge at all. So I decided to turn in my strong, independent woman card and find some help. After roaming the street looking for an able-bodied man to help me, I was too distracted to notice that my water heater hadn't drained completely. When he removed the top element, the water started flowing freely from the hose as there was finally more airflow. After pulling a few muscles in the process, the water started gushing out of that hole from the bottom element. But that's okay because some pros do this way anyways, without taking the time to drain the whole thing, although this makes me a little bit uneasy. But that's okay, I guess. No harm done. The insulation did get a little bit wet, but I was able to replace the heating element, and good thing this thing is outdoors. So I guess it wasn't a total fail besides the damage to my ego. And speaking of bruised egos, I wanted to mention replacing the anode rods. This is supposed to be a part of the water heater maintenance, and I attempted to replace them, but I could not remove the anode rods to save my life on the first water heater, and I didn't even try on the second one for fear of doing more harm than good. And I do love Bradford White, but they are known to be tough for removing the anode rods, even for the pros. So I pretty much just gave up on that idea entirely, but I do have some tips for you about that process. Number 1, the anode rod on the Bradford White water heater is under the hot water line, not under the little round hole at the top like many other brands, so beware. Number 2, make sure to buy a heat trap in addition to the anode rod because they may break apart when you remove the old one, and this step is even before you get the rod out. Number 3, make sure you have enough clearance above your water heater to insert the anode rod because they can be about 50 inches or longer. If not, you may need to disconnect the cold water line as well as the hot one and tilt it forward, which may not be a good idea. Or you can just buy the foldable anode rods that look like nunchucks, although I did not see these made for Bradford White, and I will post a document of all the Bradford White parts from supplyhouse.com website. I'm not saying that I recommend this website because they sent me crooked anode rods and they forgot to send me my heat traps, although they did fix the mistake. Although the second set of anode rods that they sent me were not exactly straight either, which is kind of crazy considering they cost like 3 times more than the ones at Home Depot. Okay, back to tips and tricks. Number 4, put some pantyhose at the end of your garden hose when you are flushing out the water heater and tie it with a rubber band so that you can see all the sediment that comes out of your water heater. Number 5, get a helper or some kind of tool to hold the anode rod so that it does not fall into the tank after you unscrew it. I wouldn't know because I didn't get this far. That's just what another video said. Number 6, if your water is still not hot enough, you may want to test or replace your thermometers as well. Number 7, make sure your water heater actually has power to it in case the problem is the wiring or the breaker. You can use your electrical tester to make sure the wires are hot when the breaker is on. And that's all. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like, comment, follow, share, and click on the Amazon links in the comments or description to help me support my channel and encourage me to keep going.